ocean blue, river from a mountain high, river as you do what rivers do, river draw the spirit now. Spirit, spark of wondrous thought. Spirit, I am free for you to guide. Spirit, pray that I be taught.
Good day, everyone. On behalf of Bell's Corners United Church, I welcome and greet you in the name of Jesus Christ on this 21st Sunday after Pentecost. Today, we are happy to welcome the families and friends of Jessica and Corey Thomas as we celebrate the baptism of their child, Mackenzie Bertrand Thomas, during the on-site service in the sanctuary. Wherever you are, whether you are joining us via online or on-site, or even reading the printed text of the service in the comfort of your homes, we are so glad that you have joined us today. We continue worshiping in the sanctuary on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. with a maximum number of 50 people. Due to the COVID variants that continue to pose some health threats to the community, the public health recommends staying at home, but if you wish to attend the service, you are more than welcome. As a faith community called to love and serve others, let us be mindful of the health protocols such as masking, social distancing, hand sanitizing, and staying home if you feel unwell. We also highly recommend that you get vaccinated as one of the best precautionary measures to protect yourself, your family, and others. During this time of pandemic, the work of the church carries on. Please take time to keep in touch with each other through prayers and phone calls, emails, or via Zoom. Check also the many announcements in our website, including Sunday school resources for your children at bcuc.org to keep you informed and give you many opportunities to respond. Friends, at the font and at the table, in the church and in the world, in our tears and in our laughter, we meet Christ. So let us come as faithful people, centering ourselves in God as we worship together.
Friends, as we light this Christ candle, remember the promise expressed by these words: "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you."
Please join me in the call to gather. We come into this space prepared to celebrate the God of energy and truth, aware of the needs of the world and open to the Spirit that leads us. We trust in God to guide our journey. God supports us as we seek to share life with others. In words and in songs, in stories and in prayers, in quiet times and happy times, God is with us. Let us pray. Holy God, you have fashioned and formed us in your image, calling us by name. You fire in us a shining glaze that reflects your tender, loving care. We ask that you pour your love upon us, a refreshing, cleansing water, calling out all that is Christ in us, shining into our world. Remind us in our gathering today that we are your beloved, for we see your love reflected in ourselves and in one another. In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, we pray. Amen.
Praise the Lord with the sounding trumpet. Praise the Lord with the harp and lute. Praise the Lord with the gentle sounding flute. Praise the Lord in the field and forest. Praise the Lord in the city square. Praise the Lord anytime and everywhere. Praise the Lord in the wind and sunshine. Praise the Lord in the dark of night. Praise the Lord in the rain or snow or in the morning light. Praise the Lord in the deepest valley. Praise the Lord on the highest hill. Praise the Lord, never let your voice be still. Praise the Lord with the crashing sound. Praise the Lord with the pipe and steel. Praise the Lord with the joyful strings. Praise the Lord with the joyful songs you sing. Praise the Lord in the weekday morning. Praise the Lord on a Sunday morning. Praise the Lord by the light of Salome. Praise the Lord in the time of sorrow. Praise the Lord in the time of joy. Praise the Lord in the time of glory. Praise the Lord every moment. Nothing let your praise destroy. Praise the Lord in the peace and quiet. Praise the Lord in the perfect night. Praise the Lord every part in every way.
In our on-site worship service today, we welcome Mackenzie Bertrand Thomas, child of Jessica and Corey Thomas. Today, we welcome her into our church family through the sacrament of baptism. We also welcome the godparents, Cheryl Moore and Mark McHugh. Let us offer our support, our prayers, and our congratulations to Mackenzie and her family on this momentous occasion.
Welcome, 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 welcome to the family of God. Welcome, 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 welcome to the family of God.
When I was setting the table for our Thanksgiving dinner last weekend, I counted all the people who would be there, and we were 13. So I put all the leaves in the table and figured out how to get that many of us around it. I put 5 chairs on one side of the table against the wall, and 6 on the other side where there was more room to pull your chair out, and 1 at each end. When I was finished, my grandsons came in and started choosing where they wanted to sit. This is a new house for all of us, so nobody has a usual seat. What seat would you pick? Would you want to be on the wall side where there was more elbow room, or on the side where you could push your chair out if you wanted to leave the table? Or would you want to sit at one of the ends, at the head of the table? Which is the best seat? In our Bible reading today, 2 of the disciples, James and John, come to Jesus with a request. They want to pick the best seats in heaven, 1 on each side of Jesus. They want to get their dibs in first, and they want Jesus to promise them those best seats right now. And Jesus says, "Really? Are you sure you want those seats?" He understands that those places come with a lot of work and responsibility. They'll have to be willing to face all the work and suffering that Jesus has to deal with. But they assure him, yep, they are up for the challenge. Now, when the other disciples hear what James and John are trying to do, they aren't very happy. What makes those 2 think they're so special? Well, Jesus tells them all that he can't make that decision anyway, and that the places of honor they imagine in heaven will be places that are earned, not just picked. To earn that special place, they'll be expected to be servants to each other and the world. Leaders don't just have privileges, they have huge responsibilities. If you want to be a leader, Jesus tells his friends, you have to be willing to put others ahead of you, to help them first. You don't become a leader by pushing your way to the front. You become a leader because you make life better for the people around you. Now, our Thanksgiving table worked out really well. In the end, the kids picked seats on the side with more chairs because they know they're smaller and take up less space than the adults. They were also proud to be able to help clear the dishes and let the adults relax after dinner. Everyone was comfortable and happy. I'm proud of those kids. Can you guess which seat I picked? The one right next to the kitchen. I think it's the best place of all. And it was even better because I had these 3 helpers. Let's finish with a prayer. Loving God, sometimes we think we can ask you for anything and you will give it to us because we know you want us to be happy. But often you know better than we do what will be best. Help us to think carefully about the wishes we have and the choices we make. Help us to see that we are happiest when we make sure that the people around us are happy too. Amen.
Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and children tell how hearts learn to forgive. Built of hopes and dreams and visions, rock of faith and vault of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end divisions. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in His place. Let us build a house where prophets speak and words are strong and true, where all God's children dare to seek to dream God's reign and rule. Here the cross shall stand as witness and a symbol of God's praise. Here as one we claim the faith of Jesus. All are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome in
Good morning. Please join me for the prayer for illumination. God of wisdom, as we ponder on your word, remind us again that we are your beloved children. Open us to receive your spirit of grace and inspire us to embrace your life-giving word. Amen. The gospel reading this morning comes from the book of Mark, chapter 10, verses 35 to 45, and I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. The request of James and John. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." May the light of Christ dwell where the word is spoken. Thanks be to God.
Let us pray. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our rock and our strength. Amen. Let's admit it. Seating arrangements can be at times frustrating, tricky, or deceiving. How many of you have attended a wedding reception and did not enjoy every minute of it because you were seated with someone that you are not on good terms with? What about in a public gathering when someone asks you to move because you are sitting in a VIP seat? Or that time in a restaurant when you waited to be seated for more than 30 minutes because you were in a party of 2, and those in larger groups were seated first, even if you were way ahead of them. In high school, I always wanted to sit in the front row so I could listen well to the teacher. But I also had a selfish motive behind this. I would like the teacher to notice how attentive I was. So if I asked a question, she would at least remember me and perhaps give me a good mark. On one particular day, the class was preparing for project presentations. One classmate asked if she could switch seats with me because she was a bit nervous and sitting in front will give her enough confidence. I told her I was in the same boat with her and I don't want to be called first. I managed to convince her to stay where she was. With assurance, I told her not to worry because I felt that the presenters would be called by their last names in alphabetical order, as that was the usual practice. My classmate's last name is M and mine is V, so that would have given us enough time to muster our confidence when it was our turn to speak. To my surprise, the teacher announced that the presentations will be done row by row, beginning with those sitting in the front row. My assumptions were totally wrong. To add to my consternation, I was called first. That did not sit well with me, and I was not able to deliver my presentation with confidence. That was a lesson learned for sure. Be careful what you wish for. How many times have we heard this aphorism? Singer-songwriter Luke Combs wrote a song with the same title, and this is what he said. Sometimes things are not what you think they're going to be. What you want is not always what you need. Sometimes what you think you'll find is not quite what real life has in store. So be careful what you wish for. In our gospel story today, brothers James and John made a peculiar request to Jesus. Known as the Greek word Boanerges, meaning sons of thunder, James and John were outspoken, hot-tempered, and were not shy to ask or tell Jesus or anyone else what they want. They were the ones who asked Jesus, in another story, to rain down fire on those people who refused to offer Jesus and the disciples hospitality. But there's another side of their upbringing as to why they are so assertive. You see, James and John came from a more affluent family than Simon and Andrew and the rest of the other disciples. Their father Zebedee owned a fishing business with large fishing boats and employed many people. James and John must have received whatever they have asked from their wealthy parents. They felt they were entitled to be treated differently from the other disciples. After all, didn't they follow Jesus and left a life of comfort behind? Why wouldn't they expect a little something in return on the day when their leader moves up on top? They were counting on Jesus to be a winner, not a loser. They followed Jesus and had seen him in action, teaching and healing the sick, socializing and doing some extraordinary things. Someone who will bring down the Roman oppressors and liberate the people from their impoverished estate. They truly believed that Jesus was a winner, and being on the good side of the winner makes James and John winners too. James and John approached Jesus and said, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask." Whatever we ask. We have words for this attitude. Demanding, high maintenance, arrogance. As if they were saying to Jesus, "We are entitled to something here, Jesus. After all, we have sacrificed a lot to be your disciples." The request sounds a bit like children asking their mom or dad to promise to give their request or their wish without even telling them what it was first. "Please swear on your heart that you'll do this for me." This way of asking is almost always part of our prayers. "Oh God, please give me this and give me that. I'm counting on your answering this prayer of mine because, God, I deserve it." Ever requested or prayed for one like that before? Well, Jesus, being how good and considerate he was, listened to the brothers' request. But Jesus did not make any promises. Neither did he reprimand them, something he's quite capable of doing at other times. He simply listens to their question with grace and responds with another question. "What is it that you want me to do for you? How may I be of service to you? How can I help you?" Without mincing their words, James and John say, "Grant to us sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." Glory isn't a word we use much these days. It sounds very churchy and sacred. But let's face it, we do have our modern version of glory in this day and age. Prestige, fame, entitlement, privilege, distinction, success, honor, pride. James and John do not only want to get the best seats with Jesus, but they want to retire as privileged disciples of Jesus. In fact, they simply don't want this honor. They are convinced that they deserve them, that they are entitled to them. So, what's the big deal about sitting at the right and left of Jesus? Well, it was customary in Jesus' time when gathering for a dinner or feast, for example, to have the places of honor assigned to the VIPs, the very important people. And the most coveted positions were at the right or the left-hand side of the host. Those seats were reserved for those representing people with power and distinction, someone very close with the host or the king or the emperor. You get the picture. Jesus replied with disbelief at their request, perhaps even with sarcasm. Oh, my brothers, James and John, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? Jesus was actually telling them, I am going to suffer a great deal. I don't think this is the joyride you are expecting. Are you willing to drink the cup? To experience tremendous challenges and hardships and be baptized with a baptism of rocky road and service? Do you still want to follow me? Impulsively, the brothers replied, Yes, we are able. Yes, we are able. This may be a call to all of us. How much do we say, I am able, when really we are not? Not because of our own limitations or inabilities, but because what is being asked of us is not who we are and should be. James and John, and perhaps the rest of the disciples, do not fully understand who Jesus was or what his whole mission was about. Jesus repeatedly told them that he did not come to be a powerful ruler, but to be a servant leader. The word that is translated to follow in most instances in the gospel is rooted in the Greek word for road. To follow Jesus, to claim a place in the reign of God, is to be on the road, journeying with the rest of humanity, embracing what may happen along the road. To follow Jesus first and foremost is not merely to secure a glorious seat, but to drink the cup and to be baptized by the same Spirit as Jesus. It is to be on the road, encountering life in every movement and motion, rather than anticipating a stationary life seated at the right or left of some royal throne. To drink the cup and to be baptized is to feast at the table of grace. And this is life that is worth living for. It is a life far more concerned with giving than with keeping. A life more attuned to sharing than possessing. More committed to caring than indulging. To live this life, one must be prepared for living a life of service. Jesus said towards the end of this gospel story that he came not to be served, but to serve. Out of this service, a spirit of servant leadership emerges. Leadership comes through those who are prepared not to dominate, but to serve and even to suffer at the side of Jesus. Jesus is saying not only to James and John, but to all of us, if you would be my followers, prepare to serve with love, because that is what your faith is about. We may be angry at James and John's request, like the other 10 disciples. But on a more positive side, I think the two brothers placed their full trust in Jesus. Who can blame them? Debbie Thomas writes, James and John cling to the belief that Jesus will win in the end. They put their trust in him, his word, his love, his leadership, his faith. Given what they've seen, heard, and experienced, they cannot conceive of a meaningful future apart from their teacher. Their personal hopes and dreams, imperfect though they might be, are rooted in Jesus. Jesus tells his disciples that true greatness is not found in climbing to the top and exercising power over others, but rather true greatness, true leadership is found in serving and loving others. Today we have witnessed the baptism of Mackenzie. We have committed in nurturing her, supporting her and her family to live a life of love and justice. Remind yourself that our true worth lies in our relationships with God, with each other, with the whole of creation, and how we treat one another. When we treat the other with value and dignity, loving each other, encouraging each other, recognizing each other's gifts, and helping each other live out their individual callings in the world, when we are free of the desperate need to be on top, free of our fear, that we find our self-worth and real selves. Friends, do you want to sit beside Jesus? Go ahead. But prepare yourself for a life of service and love. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Let us join our hearts and minds in prayer. Holy One, we give you thanks today for the blessing of welcoming a young child into our faith family, for the joy of hearing a little one's voice in this place after so many months of pandemic restrictions. We miss the sound of children in this place. We miss seeing familiar faces, raising our voices in song, and gathering together for fellowship. Give us the patience and the wisdom we need to see this dark time through. Open our senses to the many blessings that surround us at this time of year. The changing colors, the bountiful harvest, the busyness of birds, animals, and people as we all begin to prepare for the winter ahead. Thank you for the rhythms of life that remind us that life is still abundant, constant, and hopeful, even in times of ongoing restrictions. We pray for those in our faith family who are facing difficulties due to illness, isolation, insecurity, and grief. May they continue to feel your presence and our love. May these be the lights on their paths to comfort and healing. We pray for all those in our home communities, especially those dealing with struggles we cannot see. We pray for our neighboring communities of faith, our friends at Christ Church, St. Martin de Porres, and the Jami Omar Mosque. Help us in our common work toward making the world a better place for all. We pray for our leaders, municipal, provincial, and federal, and for leaders around the globe. Give them the wisdom to see responsibility of the privilege and power they possess, so that they are used for the common good rather than personal gain. May we all learn to align our wishes and wants with the dream of your kingdom on earth. Source of gratitude, love, and hope, hear the joys and concerns we express aloud and the ones we hold silently in our hearts as we recite together the words that Jesus shared with his followers so long ago. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
On a day like this, when we celebrate the blessing of a new baby and the joy of baptism, we are reminded to share our many blessings with others. And so we take this time to offer our gifts of time, talents, and treasures. If you are not on par and wish to send in your offering and donations, you can drop them in the mailbox by the kitchen door of the church or mail them to BCUC. You can also send in your support through e-transfer. Thank you for your continued love and support to Bell's Corners United Church. Let us pray. God, our Creator, giver of all good and perfect gifts, we bring our praise for who you are, the one who is and was and is to come. You continue the work of creating, of giving, and forgiving, and we give thanks for it all, embracing your grace and love. Help us on our journey to live the mystery of being born of water and spirit. Be patient with us as we learn to embrace your grace and extend it to others. We offer up to you all we are, all we have, and all we are becoming. In the name of Jesus, our perfect example. Amen. And now receive God's blessings. People of God, we have listened, we have shared, we have sung, and we have prayed. We welcomed a new child and her family. We have been about God's work. So go forth from this holy place with hope. Christ will be recognized among family, friends, and strangers. Go forth as God's baptized people, knowing that the refreshing waters will sustain you in your journey. Amen.